or something. Yeah. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry, I'm going to start the recording now. Apologies, everybody. All right, we'll continue.
Yeah, I can start quickly. Yeah, so we're discussing with Josh this async pattern. So the first idea that there probably some architectural assumption behind this spec. I don't know, did you guys read it? If it's so, then maybe it's worth to put it into the spec. So at least we will understand that the spec is covering distributed system. That's why monolithic system should struggle, yeah, because monolithic system will struggle. They have to implement extra endpoints. On the server side, yeah, and the clients will struggle a little bit because of extra hope. So that's the first option. At least if Josh will convince us that it's reasonable, yeah, and some distributed system really needed, okay, so we will be convinced and we will use it. Another option that potentially we discussed with Josh, that could be some options, like some parameters or headers, which will switch the behavior. For example, Josh wasn't against that. If the server can return result, then it can respond with a 200 status and the body. And Josh already make the fix, which I suggested, that when he is doing redirect, it's not returning 200 and location, he is returning 303, like classical redirect code, yeah? So this fix already there. Josh wasn't against that some servers may return response directly. So the main subject now, how to handle the errors, yeah, and what if the error happened, how to distinguish status polling error from the job errors, and that's probably, and maybe if Josh will describe why they need this extra layer of indirection, and we will agree, okay, so we can add it to the spec. But finally, I think that we should follow this pattern. And as well, I think Josh is not against that when you polling the result, there could be optional body. So we can still use partial result. And Steve was agree that this is a good idea, that potentially while you polling the status, the server may return the partial result. Yeah. So, because it's long running task, it may be interesting. Yeah, because if you're exporting file by file, when you export the first file, why you could not tell it to the client, yeah?
Right.
So that...
No, it sounds reasonable. Yeah, once this conversation progresses, obviously you're going to post and we can look at it more. But, from an architectural point of view, it seems like you can have a kind of distributed base and a more direct kind of overlay. Right? As long as they don't conflict, it seems pretty reasonable to me.
Yeah, and there's another logical problem which I see. If it's completely hypermedia driven, yeah, so we just redirecting everywhere. So that for cancellation, it shouldn't be the convention, yeah. So it shouldn't be that you sending delete operation on a status. And probably if it's completely hypermedia driven, that's my critique, that then the server should respond with the two URLs, like status URL and the cancellation URL. Because if you're really thinking about distributed system, that could be two different components. Yes, the one who is really running the job, and the one who is just working with the status. Yeah, we can imagine status server. But if you can send on the status endpoint cancellation of the job, why then the same server could not respond with the result? So that's my take, yeah? So otherwise, we can switch completely to hypermedia driven stuff, but then you should send the URL, like a link, how to cancel the job, and it could be not the same link as a status URL. Yeah. So then okay, so we can do it on not only this. Yeah, I know the new term. Do you know RM2? No.
No.
So it's like maturity level of HTTP, yeah.
Okay.
It's the name of some guy, Richardson, maturity stuff, and the FHIR is on a level 2, so it's not hypermedia driven. It's resource aware and it's method aware, but it's not hypermedia driven.
Yeah, I know a little bit about this. I don't have a deep knowledge of the space, but there's Hatos or Hatos or whatever.
Yeah. But the hypermedia means that the server will respond with the hypermedia controls, which dictate what you're doing after. Yeah, so there is no any conventions, And that allows you to, like, this gives you extra layer of indirection. So it could be different servers and so on and so on. Yeah. But if there are any type of conventions, like deleting on this URL is a delete, yeah, so it's a cancel of the task. So this is not hypermedia, so it's not level 3, it's level 2. But the rest,
Right.
it looks like Josh pretending to be on level 3 with this stuff, but maybe it can be designed completely on level 3. Okay.
Right. It's this is what I'm referring to. I don't actually know the proper pronunciation of this word.
Yeah, nobody.
Hatios or hatios. How do you pronounce that?
I don't know. I never. I usually say hypermedia driven systems. No.
You're smart to avoid the attempt here. But yeah, I see what you're saying because yeah, it's kind of a mixture architectural style, right? Yeah. Okay, sounds good. It sounds like there's next steps there.
Yeah.
Just one
Go for it.
point there. I think the issue, the other issue with this stuff is the whole compatibility and issue, and everybody kind of zeroing in on the same scheme, right? Because as I can see, there's just a proliferation of these async schemes now. So like we've got the legacy bulk data thing, right? So what's going to happen with that? Like, is this going to be technically compatible with that, or will systems have to do the bulk export pattern as well as the new pattern? And I was just recently re-implementing import, and there's a new proposal with that as well called bulk submit. In fact, I'm actually going to try and participate in that. They're having a little mini connectathon about this bulk submit thing, and like in December. And that requires the same sort of patterns as well. And because this is all in flux, we've got people implementing other things as well. So the other issue is everybody being aware of what other people are doing and kind of shooting for the same thing. So I hope that this ends up being like one sort of pattern to rule them all, and that it's kind of technically compatible with things that are already there, because if it's not, then we'll have to have multiple implementations of async effectively, which would be really annoying.
Yeah, I agree, and that idea we potentially, Josh said that he was thinking about that, so that maybe create the unified pattern. It will have several options, but it can cover all these cases. Yeah, so maybe with some switches. So and yeah, again, so I ask you, go to the chat and like express your opinion about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I did read through, and to be honest, I didn't see any major problems with it. I didn't really think about it quite as deeply as you did, Nikolai, about that you might have different sort of actors doing these things. But short of that, it seems pretty fine to me. Yeah, so I haven't quite got to implementing it, but I'm going to try and do that over the next couple of weeks, so that might bring out some more feedback.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I imagine a lot of these people are in the same conversations. I know import is being done by Dan and
We implemented bulk import in Inbox as a mirror of bulk export. So you see the result of bulk export, and we are importing that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're formalizing it now. But yeah, as some of this stuff bubbles to the surface, I think it will work out. But yeah, good conversations, and it seems like there's a good path to move forward on it. So good conversation. Let's see. So that's async pattern. Next up, query operation SQL query operation draft. Synchronous operation works on top of the library query resource. That's still on you, Nikolai.
Yeah. For the query, the Gina did very nice summary, and I will port this option too by Gina. So I don't know, did you read or not? So we need to give the name to the view. Yeah. So the view identity is URL because it's canonical, but we're gonna use some name in a SQL query. So the idea that this name should be the part of it should be stated somewhere, and it will be stated in a library in this. I don't remember how this element is called when we refer when we refer the view definition by URL, we will give the name to this reference. And yeah, and I will probably describe this option too for the query resource, for the query library profile.
Right.
And we will use probably the just table name, yeah, so without any escaping.
Okay, so I think there's a way forward on that. If you're going to have a draft of that, then obviously we'll take a look at
I
it.
will copy what Gina did, like the option 2 into the spec, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Add extension for attaching operations to view definition resource types.
I think that's already done.
Add the extension allowed type to the operation definition resource that Graham.
Yeah, Graham did this
extended.
and even supported, I think, in IG Publisher. And I added this extension for operations, so now they're attached to view definition.
Okay, cool. Finalize parameters and table name handling in library definition profile. This was
Yeah, I think that was what we discussed already.
what we're discussing. Okay, yeah. Did we discuss what symbol we were going to use?
Probably have to poll, I don't know. It's hard.
Poll, you said?
There's a
I know.
and there's a couple of
That's fine.
I don't know.
I didn't have like a great opinion on this one. Yeah, maybe we'll poll on that. Okay. All right. You have a lot of these. Nikolai updates spec with operation definition workaround using canonical resource and extensions.
Yeah, that's I did already.
Okay. You did that one already?
Yeah, I updated it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I have to look at the spec. Create pages for query and API in the spec. You did that already.
Yes, some draft.
Some drafts, yeah. I'm also gonna go look at the spec. I was working on an introduction, but I'll have to look at your drafts.
Yeah, I'm quite motivated before my talk.
I know.
One more run.
All the distractions.
Yeah.
Push aside all the distractions. Okay, yeah. You had a couple of smaller ones too. Repo access, provide repo access for run operation sandbox, and share open source view definition builder link.
Yep.
Okay, because I think people were interested in that. Have you published that yet, open source view definition builder?
I published, yeah, but I need some time to shape it. Yeah, so the Steve already did pull request, but it has some dirty deployment, so I have to fix the deployment and then I will share but the repo I can share, yeah, even right now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'd like to have a review of what new tooling is out there. Maybe I can highlight some of it in the introduction to say like, look, like, here's some nice low effort tools you can get started on.
I send it here, but ideally I need some time to write better documentation for that and the better deployment. And then, so for now it's working with the 8box and the Steve's server. And I hope maybe John eventually and other guys will add some support to it.
Cool.
Maybe before my talk, yeah, I will try to clean up and show this stuff on my talk, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. All right, I had revised the intro page. I took a very brief pass at that, but maybe I'll do another pass as I'm kind of thinking about my talk. Okay, I had some other stuff about Parquet.
You get a pull request there, Arjun?
I think I have a draft one open, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you can add to mine if you like to review that. I realize that's been sitting there for a while.
Sorry.
This one. So there's a pull request from you.
Okay.
So I can take an action to have a look at that and merge it.
Okay, it's pretty light right now. I think I wanted to expand it a little bit, but
Okay. Yep, no problem.
yeah, give me a little bit more time. I want to flesh out, I think, a little bit more, and then I'll shoot it to you guys. All right, John, you're in the firing line now. Investigate. Usually it's just John. Investigate and restore custom view definition rendering in IG Publisher.
Yeah, I haven't achieved that one yet.
Okay, excellent. Review boundary tests against FHIR core implementation.
I haven't done this one either. I'm just thinking of a new one, actually. There's another one that's kind of related, which is just checking whether we've got an issue. Yeah. So the join function tests are wrong as well, I think. Oh, well, if they're not wrong, they're in conflict with the FHIR path tests. So there's actually an issue there as well. So that's another one to in the realm of, tests that are potentially wrong.
Okay, join function test potentially wrong, so that's a to-do to investigate that, probably create a ticket for it.
Yeah,
Or
I've
in
created a
conflict.
ticket for it, but I just want to maybe highlight that one.
Okay.
I guess
All right.
these are both in our sort of experimental section, so that's not so bad. But I think it still means that our implementations either are wrong or don't agree with like the core FHIR tooling. So yeah, I don't know what we're going to do about that.
All right, maybe we'll have a little more focused discussion about that when we get a bigger group, or we can do it on Zoom. In my mind, everybody should be working on their decks,
Including you.
including I'm at the front of that line. Busy couple of weeks. Add SQL query functionality to the implementation guide. One page in the IG that
Okay,
demonstrates.
so this is the dog fooding one.
Yep.
Yep. So that hasn't been done and is still valid.
Is it? Right. And we had something like this. I think it went away, right? Something, if I remember correctly.
I don't know if we did have this, strictly speaking. We had the custom view definition rendering happening, but what this is about is actually running SQL queries over. So having view definitions in our IG, having example resources in our IG, and having pages in our IG which actually run SQL over the view definitions, which goes over the example resources, which is all functionality that exists in the IG builder, but we're not using it, which I think is kind of a bit of a shame. And we should just kind of, do that as part of our IG, just like as a demonstration of the functionality and to change, kind of make sure that it continues to work from our end as well,
Yeah, I like this idea. I think it makes it really kind of concrete and salient. You're reading the IG and like you're seeing kind of like a workbook, right? Yeah, this would be awesome to just hammer out. Because this would be something I'd love to be able to show. I know we only have a couple of days, but if I were to choose, like if you could just like draft up something on this really quickly, it would be awesome because then I could say, because I do say in my talks, usually I say like, look, like if you use IG Publisher, you have SQL on FHIR already, right? It's in it. And here is how it works. And if you go look at our IG itself, you can see it in action, so to speak, right? So that's a really kind of cool demonstration. It's very lightweight. People can see it. So if you can sneak it in, that would be really cool because then I could kind of have a concrete example of that.
Okay, I'll do my best.
Okay. No promises, I know.
This one, I believe I've actually ticked this off. Hooray, I've actually done one of these things. So yeah, we released Pathling, repeat functionality in Pathling.
Awesome.
Actually, so I haven't released it in the SQL Server implementation, but I released it in Pathling. So yeah, that's good, and it works well. The only caveat that we had to put on the implementation was so it doesn't have any limit on repeating of elements. So there's theoretically unlimited nesting except for nested extensions. And the reason for that is that in the current Pathling implementation, we store extensions in a map. So we don't have any way of kind of knowing that the last thing is not the same as the next thing, if that makes sense. So if and when we implement the Parquet on FHIR type of encoding, this might go away and we might have actual theoretically unlimited nesting on all fronts. But it's a pretty, I think it's a pretty minor thing anyway, and it's configurable. So like, you can, if you're really crazy enough to have like, 20 levels of nested extensions or something, you can configure your way through that. So I can't imagine that that would be a valid thing anyway.
Can you elaborate why it doesn't work for extensions? What's the difference with just recursive stuff?
Okay, so the way that it knows how to stop is by comparing the structure, comparing the structures. So as you go down the structure, level 1 is actually a different structure to level 2
Okay.
under normal circumstances, right? And that works but for extensions, what we have is we don't have all the possible extension structure in every element, because that would just be insane, like amount of structure, and it would just cause performance problems and that sort of thing. So we have what we call a field ID in every element, which basically we join out to a map at the top level of the resource, which has like the extension structure once, and then you just bring that in. And unfortunately, that doesn't work with the way that we figured out to do the recursion.
Okay.
So we put in a limit for that reason, but the limit's only relevant to extensions because everything else just works except for that case. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get you.
Okay, so partial credit for this one, John.
I think this maybe should have been 2 items, but anyway.
It's okay. All right. Add code system with child concepts example to repeat directive documentation. Repeat directive.
Yeah, I haven't done this. I've got an idea in my mind of how we might do it. And I think it kind of, what you have to do is in the repeat, you need to have like kind of an expression that goes ahead and an expression at the current level and an expression that goes one level ahead. And I think that works fine for child and parent. So I might, yeah, I've got an idea in my mind of how to do this, but I haven't done it.
Yeah, that's good challenging example. Yeah.
Right.
So they got like recursive.
Like a SNOMED walking down the hierarchy.
Not even SNOMED. There are some hierarchical terminologies in FHIR, and we really need the parent ID, yeah, or parent code. So we need to be able to access and join it with the parent.
Yeah, it's almost everything's other than SNOMED, because it's almost like a bit of an anti-pattern in SNOMED, but it's like it's a big thing for other things, like ICD and these sort of things.
And as well, the Brian was talking about preserving the order, yeah? So we need some type of like row index or something like row number.
In the repeat directive?
Probably, yes, probably in for each as well, but in repeat. So you can assign the ID or index, like integer number, so it can be sorted as we go. It's like in SQL, it's called usually like row something. Yeah.
Right, but that's probably I think that's non-deterministic, right? So
I think
because
If
I
it's
think
sorted, then it is deterministic. So
really?
like accessing kind of index in array or something like that. Yeah.
I don't know about that. Maybe I'm wrong.
So in our implementation, it's non-deterministic unless you explicitly sort it,
Yeah,
which
given
adds work to the query. So I think the row index is the logical solution to this. So then it's kind of explicit and you can do it. But yeah, for example, in Spark, yeah, you don't know whether half of these rows have kind of been processed on another worker or whatever and kind of just chucked in at the end. So yeah, you can't rely on ordering unless you actually ask it, go ahead and order this, and then what it'll probably do is bring it all together and order it, which is like a whole bunch of extra work. But yeah, I think row index is
Let's call it row number. I see the function. It's a window function, row number. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I don't remember exact use case, but Brian brings something use case for this row number.
Well, maybe we should just add a to do for Brian in here. Like, why doesn't Brian have any actions?
I can try. Yeah, well, I can ask him. So maybe it's a to-do for me to ask Brian why he wants ordering in
I
index.
mean,
Because
Brian Postaway, yeah?
oh, Brian Postlethwaite, not
Yeah,
my
yeah,
Brian.
Okay,
yeah.
right, okay.
He was on the last meeting. Yeah, I just forgot what he was asking, but something like that.
I'm pretty sure in SQL it's going to be non-deterministic unless you add an explicit sort, right?
Yeah, but it's because relation is non-deterministic in SQL.
They're
Here, in
sets,
resource
right?
with arrays, it is deterministic. So if you're working the arrays with for each
Mm.
with the recursion, it is deterministic. It's not.
Oh, that's true.
So then like, and sometimes people want to preserve the order.
Yeah.
That's
Okay, that makes more sense. Yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. So it's an array with, yes, with the ordering.
let's say that you're working with a list resource and you unrolling this list and you want to preserve the order, yeah, because it may have some meaning, yeah, like the queue or something like that.
Got it. Okay. All right. Forget what I just said. So that makes a lot more sense. Cool. All right. So, John, complete and submit pull request for row index. You did that already.
No, I haven't
No,
done
no,
that.
you haven't done that. You haven't done that one. Complete and submit pull request for repeat directive.
Yeah, we can delete that one.
Okay, that one is for deletion to do for me. Add mimic for example to develop. There's a lot of mimic for
This is
stuff
kind
hanging
of
out.
like a whole project. I'm not
It's
sure if I
it
think this
gets
should maybe be removed because it's on my list, but it's like a
It's
whole
far down the
project.
chain. Yeah, it's far down the chain. Well, we'll remove it from the to-do so it doesn't bug us every week. And create demo script showing Parquet example working with Flat Quack and DuckDB implementations. That's,
I think we should remove this as well.
yeah. I should check in with, I haven't talked to Dan in months, so I'm going to try and check. So to-do for me, check in with Dan. We'll
To be
remove
honest,
this
I have
one.
one more topic. So we are
Okay.
we're talking about Parquet, like to encode the file resources, yes. But we as
Yeah.
well, when we're doing export, we can export like flattened Parquet files, yes. And then we still have a question about types and all this stuff. It's a much simpler, yeah, than like encoding FHIR in Parquet, but maybe it's still worth to investigate. So if we will output bulk export in Parquet, what are the types, what are the recommendations, and so on.
Well, we now have default types which are unambiguous, I think. So I think that if you implemented that today and you followed the default types that are in the spec,
This will work, yeah.
that would be fine. I mean, it doesn't use like native types, like it's mostly string stuff. And you can hint it to do things like native types. And then you might get into like how you do that in Parquet or whatever. But I think if you just go with the default SQL types, that if you don't hint any types in the view definition, then it should be uncontroversial, I think.
Okay.
For a Parquet export.
Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
Or any SQL output, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah, that's the point of having a default, because if you don't have a default, then yeah, what you're going to make a different sort of decision in every implementation on what types you use in that output format.
Yeah, it feels like we're in pretty good shape with that, with the default types. So, is there anything specific, Nicola, you think is missing on that?
Yeah, I
Well,
just thinking
I
about
just bring it up.
simple.
Okay, cool. And then you've got a couple laggards here. Add use case info at all examples of multiple view definition use cases.
I think we can remove that add
Okay.
use case info one. I
Okay.
think that was pre milestone one.
Okay.
I
So we'll
think
remove
we
that.
can remove all of them actually.
Yeah.
The whole counting thing, I think, is kind of still on my mind. I've got a student who's working on this at the moment. He's creating a patient cohort tool, and he's exploring like what FHIR APIs you use for that whole end-to-end experience, where you kind of build up criteria, you figure out how many patients match those criteria, then you start selecting data elements that you want for each patient, then you export it and you preview it and then you export it. and all the rest of it. And what sort of FHIR server capability do you need to do that whole thing? You know, do you need to use a combination of the search API? And I think using the search API and the FHIR path stuff together is kind of annoying. So we need a way of either going between FHIR path and search API, or just using FHIR path in the search API, which so I'm not sure where we're going to land on that for this demo, but I think it's still a bit of an open question in my mind how we do this. And I still kind of feel like there should just be a FHIR path search parameter. It would, but I mean, obviously, it probably wouldn't be too hard to implement for servers that already have FHIR path capabilities. But yeah, anyway.
I just feel like, I mean, I've heard what Gino has to say about it, and it's like they probably should have just had an optionality here, right? Where I think they didn't want to create a spec where they had, implementers had to do it, but it could have been optional in my view.
Well, there's already that sort of crazy advanced search syntax that nobody implements. So we could just add another thing that nobody implements, and we'll just keep on adding them.
Yeah, I mean, if you've already
you can do it.
So
you can have like named search. What's the name for it? Named search profiles or something. So one thing I had thought about was maybe we just have like we define _ FHIR path somewhere. So and whether that's in the core FHIR spec or whether it's in another IG, we just say this is like, if you name it _ FHIR path, this is what it can mean. And basically what it means in the pathlink server implementation is that you just have a FHIR path that returns a Boolean, and if the resource matches that, it's included in the search. And if you have multiple of them, it's AND logic, basically. So, and you can also do, I think you can also do OR logic as well. So I think it actually works pretty well, but we would have to kind of define it somewhere.
It's definitely hard to optimize, so I could not imagine index to make it work faster. So it's only full scan. Yeah.
That's the problem for, and that's where I'm kind of colored from the way I've implemented it, which is in the query. But I recognize that other implementations, they have just FHIR path engines that do it on a resource by resource basis. And so that would be like a post-processing thing or something potentially. Yeah. So it wouldn't be very fast.
All right.
Whereas in pathlink, it's no different to like adding a filter to the view definition. Like, it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah. If you can second all resources, you don't have this problem.
Okay. Well, we can continue to talk about that one. I mean, it's a little tangential, I think, to SQL and FHIR. But I mean, well, if we're talking about the search API anyway, but I mean, this is a good forum, I guess, to talk about it.
I mean, there was actually an aspect of this which is kind of relevant to SQL and FHIR API, where, if you want to run, like, if you want to take a view definition and execute it, or do before you execute it, like, how many patients are going to be returned, or do you have to actually execute it and figure that and aggregate it yourself and figure that out? So is there any kind of support in the API to like do a kind of don't actually give me the result of this, just count the resources that are included in this?
Or how it's usually called.
Yeah, and we had a few variations of this. We had, how many resources is going to return? We had, like, are all the features that we use inside this view definition actually supported, and is it going to run successfully? Which I guess you could just run it and just see, but depending on the implementation, I don't know whether that would be efficient. And so we had a few kind of variations of this, but that's something slightly different again, where is there any server support for sort of counting resources and results? Because it's actually not necessarily possible to do it just from the result, because it means that you have to include the resource ID in the result for starters, which you usually do anyway. And then you need to aggregate because we have like multiple rows per resource ID and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I think that's what those ones were.
I think it's more discussion needed. I mean, I sort of have I want to say, well, a gut feeling about it, but I think it needs to be specified a little bit more before we can really, I mean, we've talked about it, but I don't see any like clear path, at least vis-a-vis the current spec.
But
But
why do you have that for the people when they're working to predict what's going to happen, how long it will take, or just kind of introspection and like debugging or dev tools, like dev features, or?
Well, I mean, I think it's the same reason why you often do select count star on a query before actually retrieving the entire result. I guess you're kind of validating what you're going to get before you actually do it. Yeah, I'm not sure about this either. I think it needs more work, but the thing I am sure about is
It
that
is expensive operation, yeah, to build the huge view definition, like on a lot of data. So you need some type of like pre-flight trying and estimate what will happen, yeah, how long it will take.
I mean,
Yeah.
like I think it's a real use case, and it's from I know it from that German guy. It's one thing that he's doing. You know him, John. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Julian.
yeah.
Yeah. We had a lot of chat about it Dev Days. But so it's a real use case for these like large scale distributed data networks, right? And people trying to see how many patients are in their cohort before they access the data on them themselves, right? So like the count has less protections around it before they have to do the official query, which has a lot more data privacy protections and data access protections. So I think it's a useful use case. To me, does it make sense to have capabilities designed specifically around it, right? Like all this is definitely possible with the existing capabilities. It's should there be specific capabilities around it, and what do those specific capabilities provide? Because they would be adding complexity to the API in particular, and probably not able to access a lot of,
It could be as well
valuable optimizations.
very technology specific, the question, how much we can standardize here, because
Right.
Spark is different from Postgres, is different from, I don't know, big, and so what we can standardize here. We'll decide, we probably can like add pre-flight parameters, so like special like debugging queries, but maybe when we really show that it's implementable and it's needed by, I don't know, 80% of users.
I think implementability is less of an issue to me than what value to get out of it, right? Like if versus
Yeah,
just
it's very valuable if you can do, but if you could not implement it in scale, so then it is the question.
if there's no performance benefit, right? Like then I don't think I see much of any value over count star, right? A count star query, because
even to be honest, in Postgres, even count star could be the real challenge on a big database, because it may do the full table scan, and if it's like 10 terabytes table, you can wait for the count for hours and hours.
Yeah, for sure. Because there's no way.
Help here. Sometimes people doing some limits to understand, like just estimate, or looking at the plans to decide.
Yeah, completely agree. Like it's really because you're talking about like if you're talking about optimizing performance of a generic query, right, over a multiplicity of systems, right, you're just going to be in the shit, right? Like you're just across, that there's no way around it, right? There's no way to predict what even the Postgres query planner is going to plan given any given query against any given schema, right? Like there's no way to say, okay, well, we can optimize this. So that's why I'm saying like to me, that's my starting point. And if we would add specific functionality for this specific use case, and that is the reality, you're not going to gain anything. You're not going to gain any generalized value, right? You might have value in like one specific system, but you can't really do that for a spec like this. That's at least this is like, I'm just putting my cards on the table the way I look at this. I could be convinced otherwise, but that's how I see it. If you're taking,
I think probably what we'll do is
Julian should come. I invited him. He should come.
I think we'll implement something in this space and we'll show what we've done. It's similar to search API summary equals count. So you can do that in the search API, and it actually supports bringing back an estimate or an accurate thing for that in a bundle in the search API. That'll
Really?
FHIR today. Yeah.
Jeez.
And anyway, I think we've gone over time, but
We have gone over time.
Yeah, I think there's still something there.
Okay.
We'll keep
Well,
going.
you keep hammering on that one. Anyway, all right. Cool stuff. Good stuff. How's your deck going?
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, guys. My electricity go down.
Oh no.
Yeah, I've barely started on mine, but that's not unusual for this many days out.
I know.
But I'll keep going.
All right.
Anyway,
Good stuff.
Yeah.
All
Good
right.
luck
See
with
you
your
guys.
electricity, Nicola.
See you guys. Bye.
Yep. Bye.
Yeah.
See you later.